piece is essential. And each year we create a new communications plan and it's disseminated. The students get a copy, the parents get a copy, the teachers get a copy so that everybody understands what the expectation for communication looks like in the building. And I think that parents appreciate it. I think that the teachers appreciate it. And I believe that the kids even appreciate knowing exactly what to expect. And I've found that it helps me in being able to refer parents back to that because at the bottom of that communication plan is the chain of concern. And that chain of concern starts with if you have an issue, your first communication does not need to be with me. Your first communication needs to be perhaps with your child, but the bigger part of that needs to be with the teacher because I want whatever can be worked out at the classroom level to be worked out at the classroom level, going back to our framework of respect. Because when you have those mutual relationships that are respectful, the year goes by better and the culture is better and everybody is a part of that team. And ultimately, I think that leads to higher student achievement. So I force the teachers too to have a plan for their classroom for communication.
I completely agree with you, Tammy. And having that plan in place is essential. We started a new plan at the district level, and that same thing goes for district level leadership. You have to have a plan from your marketing director, whoever. Great Saturday, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Shika. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday.
Yes, happy Saturday and welcome to episode 111 of the Real Academy. I am Dr. Sheikah Houston.
And I am Dr. Tammy Taylor, and we are your leadership doctors. So we want to say thank you for joining us this morning and welcome to everybody. If you're new and wondering who we are, I can tell you we are your leadership doctors, and we're very proud to support teaching and learning for teachers, for administrators, parents, churches, and especially children. We work with school boards and school leaders. We work across the gamut of education, and we are very glad to be able to serve in those capacities. Several years ago, Sheikah and I found ourselves in state sanctioned school improvement, and we had no idea about where to turn or what to do. We didn't have any answers and we didn't have any direction, and no one was there for us to rely on but each other. And we knew that we were in desperate places and had to figure something out. So, because of neither one of us being willing to give up or to wallow in the despair and defeat that we were experiencing, we decided to create a framework that we use to change the trajectory of our schools. Our schools both made drastic improvements in just a single year with our staffs who are absolutely incredible. Sheikah School improved 2 report card ratings, and mine actually improved 3. So we wanted to share that framework because that was what we used to change our trajectory. And what you can see at the top of our screen is that REALL acronym that outlines the framework that we created. The R stands for respect, the E is for excellence, the A is for accountability, and our L is for literacy and for leadership. And this is our framework that we use to keep things real. We decided that we were going to use our framework to not just help ourselves, but to help others who might find themselves in less than desirable positions in their schools.
Most definitely. And you may be asking, well, why do you want to do what you're doing, or what made you decide to use this platform to expand what you're doing? And the first reason is to pay it forward. Just like Tammy talked about, when we were in the throes of that state sanctioned school improvement, before turning our schools around, we were looking for support. And it was through platforms like this one that we were able to find that support, through platforms just like the Fantastic Four with Principal Sean Hurt, Principal Kafele, Josh and Dean on Sundays, and the Village Leadership Group throughout the week. These are the types of platforms that provided support for people when it was not there. And we're finding in our work with school coaching with leadership that in a lot of places that support still isn't there. One person that is in our coaching program right now talked about how the leadership that has been provided by the district who comes from the state does not provide the type of support or that thought partnership that really truly allows her to be vulnerable in her decisions and helps her to take her decisions through a framework model to make sure she's on the right track. So it provides a different level of vulnerability for leaders. It was one that we appreciated, and we're passionate about making sure that we provide that support, because we know it's going to impact children. When we're helping the leaders support the teachers, we know that that impact for students is going to be greater. And the other part of it is just what I stated. We're helping that most vulnerable population of students, population of people, and that is our students. So we're continuing our topic, which we created to be a series for today. And this is the last day in this series. What are people learning from your leadership? And we've been looking at this for the past couple of Saturdays through different lenses. That school board lens, the district level leadership lens, the school level leadership lens, classroom level leadership, and even from home. Because when we're talking about that most vulnerable population of people, we're talking about our students. All of these people support our students. So when we're looking at the decisions that we make, we want to make sure that they are best for children. So under that topic, what are people learning from your leadership today? You want to make sure that your decisions are student centered. And then how do you assess whether or not they are student centered? Good morning, Principal Kafele, and good morning to everyone joining us. I want to give everybody a shout out because we appreciate you all being here and we don't take it lightly. Could have been doing anything else on your Saturday. So Josh is on the treadmill. Good morning to Mr. Benton. Principal Hurt, you always knock it out the park. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Principal Laws, Dr. Cheryl Lynn, Miss September, Jasmine, Miss Principal Dot McKeever Jeter. We're so glad to see you here and still healing. Stacy, thank you for joining us. And I think this is Adelia. And if I'm saying that wrong, please let me know how to pronounce it, from Belize. Thank you so much for joining us. Alan and Arcella, thank you all for joining us, and good morning again. So
Good morning.
that topic again, are your decisions student centered? And I'll start with that school board lens. So one of the major things that school board members look at for schools are our budgets. That's a big deal when we have to get our budgets approved every year by the school board. And from a school board member lens, and we talked about this last week about how at our conference through Central Michigan University, a lot of those school board members were there just to hear the rationale of what was going on in some of the sessions to better help support their schools. You want to look at, like, with the budgets, student teacher ratios. What does that look like with the budget that's being presented? Do we have enough support staff to really provide the level of support that's needed for students? Because as we look around in headlines and look at data, for students. Student support, the needs for students have has gone up. The types of level of support that's needed for students has increased a lot. So a lot of those wraparound services for mental health and making sure we're providing interventions for SEL, all of those things are needed, but we need people to do those things. We can't just push everything down on a classroom teacher because it becomes overwhelming. And then with our district level leadership, we want to look at, are we supporting schools to the capacity where we are allowing them to be able to best support students? So, are we consolidating meetings? Because meetings have to take people out of the building. And with everyone being in different departments, are we collaborating to make sure we're not having people out of the building 15 of 30 days in the month? So we have to take some things off of people's plates and not just keep adding to them. And one example of making sure we're providing that support at the secondary level in our district, some of the schools don't have coaches. So where there's not coaches, we have to go down and physically do work with the people where there isn't a position in place for that. So those are the types of things that are helpful and also best support students. And then school level leadership, Tammy's going to start there with talking about some of those things that are school level leadership and how we're going to assess whether or not our decisions are student centered.
Well, we want to just go back to one of the things that I think is important to acknowledge, to your point, Shika, of whether or not we are being provided with the resources that we need, because that's a really big part of ensuring that we're in the position to run the school as effectively as it can be run. But we have to, I guess, in this climate, now we have to also, and this is something that is tasked upon us as school leaders, we have to be in the position where we figure out like what happens when the money's there, but the people are not there. Like there are no people to fill the positions. And I have to shout out right now, my reading interventionist at my school is currently serving as a first grade teacher. Now,
Mhm.
those are the kinds of sacrifices that are having to be made in schools. It isn't that we didn't have a position budgeted for
Mhm.
the position of third, first grade class, and I'm thankful the school's growing, so we need more people, but the people aren't there. So we're in the position now where the conundrum is, what do you do to fill these positions? Or are you forced to have 30 odd kids in a first grade class, which is insanity when this
Mhm.
is the time and space where you're really learning how to be a student? Because kindergarten, of course, acclimated you to the school process, but it's it's a very difficult space to operate in. And I'm thinking that when you come upon those kinds of decisions, you have to have the wherewithal or the foresight to be able to see exactly what the school needs. Now,
Mhm.
are we hurting having Marsha in the classroom and not in her intervention position? We are. But the thing that I love about the school and the thing that I love about the people at that particular school is they do whatever has to be done. And
Mhm.
so even though we are short an interventionist, we do have someone in that first grade class where we won't be sending up children who are less ready because we were in a bind with the way that we were having to do school this year, like we did with kindergarten. It was just one of those unfortunate things.
Right. And you're right, Tammy. That has been something that I've seen in Facebook groups all over the nation. And when you approach the conversation with those people who are serving in roles like the intervention roles or coaching roles, that we had to make those hard decisions, even in some districts, district level people had to go down and serve in classrooms. And what I told some of the people that I work with, some of them were, saying, "Oh, I don't, we are not beyond serving children. We
Right.
are all here to serve children, and whatever we need to do to make sure that our students will succeed is what we will do." And that goes back to our door, that respect. If you do not have a heart for children, this is not for you. And you're right, Tammy. That's a big thing that we are all battling. Where are the people? And we have a school even with multiple virtual teachers this year, where they're having to patch in through, and we're having to find support staff members to actually manage the classroom. But that's a real reality. How school is actually changing in the way that we do school, and we still have to look at it from that lens of, are we student centered? Are we doing the best things that we can do for students? So I think over time that we are going to see more shifts
Right.
as we continue to put this question in the forefront. Are we doing what's best for children in
Mhm.
these decisions that we're making? So that is a hard one that leaders have had to make. And
Yeah.
then when you're getting to the classroom level of teachers, a lot of times we have to make sure that we can make things easier for us. It's really easy to put things in the platforms that we've been given, like Schoology, and just disseminate things out to children. Or even when we're looking at how children take notes and process their learning, it might be easier for me as the teacher to say, well, hey, this virtual notebook is so much better for me. I can grade it easier. But if I'm a child who needs to process my notes on paper, that is not good for me. So
Right.
it has to be what is good for the child. And now with the generation work that we're doing, it even has to be very specific to, how can you make your lesson plans more individualized and personalized to even what students want to do? So
Mhm.
there's so many lesson plan platforms out there that already give you the lesson plan. So teachers are not, having to use a lot of their time for that. I think their time is best used for taking that lesson plan and personalizing it for who is actually sitting in front of them, making it culturally
Mhm.
relevant, making it career relevant for that child. This is why you need to
Mhm.
know this, because you want to be a nurse. This is how
Right.
this relates to you, since you would like to be a truck driver. Because when you put it on that level, now we're engaging students even farther.
Definitely. And I think Shika, you are spot on about us having to really take a step back and assess like what's happening. What do our students need that we are either doing a good job of providing them with, or what is it that's missing that we need to step it up in?
Hmm.
Because if we don't, then it's all for naught. Like what we don't want, and that's the thing that I love about our framework is I love that the real acronym stands for real, because that's what we have to do is we have to be real and we have to keep it real. Like leadership can't be anymore just checking off the box to say that you've completed these 10 tasks. Like, okay,
Hmm.
this is what you have to do. And so your schedule has to say that you're doing this, and this. And so we get a check every time we are in the correct space and step inside this box. But what if that isn't what my kids need at
Hmm.
this particular school? Like my children don't need 45 minutes of health. So, you know what I can do? I could take that health time, integrate it into something else so that I can provide them what they need. And I think as leaders, we just have to be willing to take the hit for that. Like, okay, this is your schedule doesn't reflect what we've told you has to be in it. And let me justify why. No, it
Mhm.
doesn't. But this is why it doesn't, because in this grade span, this is what I need. And this
Right.
is the way that we're going to accomplish that. So I really do think if we don't start to put that clipboard down and stop worrying about getting the check mark that we're going to get that says, oh, we've completed these whatever tasks, then we're going to continue to fail our kids. But
Mhm.
the moment that we transcend those expectations and we really focus on what our students' needs are, then we'll start to see a shift in the attitudes, not just of the students, but also of the teachers, because they feel like, okay, she wants me to do these things, but she also realizes that there have to be some concessions made in order for this to happen. So I love that you talked about how some things have to be taken off
Mhm.
the plate, or we're just setting up a very unrealistic set of expectations.
Most definitely. And one of the mistakes that we commonly do in education, and I put this comment back up here, we leave out parents. I went to a training this past week, and it kept making me cringe when the presenter kept saying that, well, you when you have students of in poverty, their homes are XYZ. We cannot assume that because someone comes from a certain zip code or socioeconomic status, that their homes are automatically a certain way, because there's a lot of affluent homes that are also in chaos. So when we're talking about looking at the needs of students, we can't leave out parents, and we also can't make assumptions based off of stereotyping people. So this comment about the school parents support students when their kids are in the first levels of school, and then at the higher grades they tend to leave things to the teachers' hands and want them to perform miracles. Sometimes that's because that population, that secondary population, we're not as inclusive, because we start to say, oh well, they have to be responsible, or the parents don't know how to do this because everybody thinks what they're doing is so high level, and you don't even know that this child might even have an astrophysicist sitting in their house because you haven't inquired. So, we can't make assumptions, and we can't leave parents out. Parents also have to decide whether or not things that they're doing for their children are what's in the best interest of the children. Are we spending that time with them? Are we blocking off time to make sure that we're talking to our children, asking them the right questions, not just how was school, but who did you play with? What did y'all play? What were y'all talking about? You have to really delve down into your children to find out what is actually going on with them, because if you're not asking, a lot of times they're not as willing to tell you because they're caught up into all of their other things that they're doing. So, we do have to truly be a partnership in serving children.
And we
And
have to be real about our space and time there too.
mhm,
Because if and somebody's comment said that the economic status can't determine your future destination, because if
mhm,
it did, guess what? I would still be stuck at the airport. I,
mhm,
I have to be real with parents too to say, listen, there is no excuse for a child not to be able to reach their potential, especially their academic potential, because that
mhm,
has nothing to do with whether or not you can do something. You can support them into being able to do it. And I use myself as the example. Here I am sitting here, your child's principal. I came from the very same home dynamic that you are bringing this child in here from. There's hope. And I think that
mhm.
that's what we have to stand on.
Well, it is 10:55, so we are out of time. So thank you all for joining us. Hop over with us to Principal Kafele's page. He's going solo today, so we know it's going to be good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also on Sunday, log into Josh and Dean on Unlock the Middle. Dr. Roz is back through the week with the Village Leadership Academy, and then right back here on Saturday, starting at 10 with Principal Hurt. Create and educate at 10:30. So remember, we create spaces that thrive, and we hope that you all keep thriving on this Saturday. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day, guys.